Today, we are going to take a look at how I paint my 28mm US Paratroopers in winter clothing. As with all my US Airborne tutorials, I tend to lean on Band of Brothers for my inspiration when filming, and this guy was no exception. I'd love to know in the comments if you guys are similar to me and end up binging Band of Brothers just because you've got to paint a US Airborne figure. So let me know below if that is the case. Okay, so Warlord Games sent me some US Airborne figures for winter. Now this is probably to align with their V3 rule set as well as their starter set that has just been announced and is going to be released soon. So this starter set is going to focus around the Battle of the Bulge. So we're going to be looking at winter themed allied forces. So we're going to go with the US Airborne squad in winter, and this box set is all in metal as you can see at the front here, but we'll delve into that a little bit more now. So once you get your box set, it will look something like this. So you can see the box art on the front is really nice, and then the box art on the back just shows you exactly what you're going to get. So you've got some crouching figures, some standing, as well as a prone figure in there as well. Once you get your box set, and thank you Anna for packaging this one, you can see you get your models all packaged nicely within there with some foam to protect them. But being metal, they don't really need that much protection because they are pretty thick, especially at this scale being 28mm. So we'll take a closer look at them now. So this particular guy has got a Thompson, as well as they're wearing some sort of neck scarf. Bearing in mind the US Airborne at this particular time of the war were rushed to the front line because of the Ardennes offensive launched by the Germans. So you're going to be expecting these figures to not have much equipment, and they had very little winter protective clothing as well, and you can see that these have been sculpted in the correct way for that. They're lacking in their equipment, look like they've just been rushed to the front. My only criticism with these models is the fact that the helmets just look a little bit smaller than they should do, but that really isn't noticeable once you've got them on the tabletop. So it's still a good box set. So to prime them, we're using Tamiya Surface Primer Light Grey. This is just my go-to. A lighter primer is always going to help those brighter colours stand out just that little bit more. So then we're going to use US Olive Drab as our base coat for the uniform. So these will be wearing the M43 uniforms. So they are of the US Olive Drab colour, so a green colour, not a khaki. Obviously, this colour will also work perfectly for US Airborne in the Market Garden operation, as well as late war, really late war US Airborne figures and some US infantry. So you should have something like this, pretty much this whole uniform painted in that, most of the model to be fair, and then we can paint the webbing. So we use khaki for the webbing. It's just the standard sort of colour that you're going to be painting most late war US Airborne webbing. And you can see that this brush is actually bigger than my usual ones. If you've got a keen eye, this is a size 2 brush, probably a little bit too big for my liking. It was really good for the uniform, but the webbing is just, I like a bit of a finer tip, but the smaller the brush, obviously the longer the time on the job. And then for the helmet, I use US dark green. Obviously, it's not really too much I can show you here. Just be mindful of a chin strap or a bit of the helmet strap that goes over the top of the helmet. So you can see I've just missed it there. Trying to pay particular attention to those details. So for the Thompson, we use black grey. So this goes for any metal. It was an M1 Garand, M1 Carbine, etc. As well as if you had a bayonet or some binoculars. And we can just make sure we paint that in quite nicely. Bearing in mind that the Thompson does have some wooden aspects to it, so we just have to make sure that we're not making too much mess. You can make plenty of mess at this point, but the lower amount of mess you make, just the easier the job is going to be. Now I'm going to paint them in their US jump boots. I'm not sure if they would have been wearing the jump boots at this point. Obviously, I'm not jumping out of aircraft. I'm no US World War II historian, so please correct me in the comments if this footwear is incorrect, but this is what I think that they would be wearing from what I can see from historical pictures. And then obviously we want to paint the wooden aspects of the weapons and anything else they got. So the stock of the Thompson as well as the foregrip and also the grip of his his pistol grip. Is it called a pistol grip? His grip around there. I'm not a weapons expert either. So then we go with the scarf. So this is just a grey colour. So I'm going to use basalt grey for that one. I'm just going to paint it. You could paint his hands in this colour too and just pretend that he's wearing some gloves, because, you know, it would definitely not have been unusual for that. But because of how quickly they were rushed to the front, I'm just going to leave him without gloves. Now check out this cool Battlefield Accessories Citadel pot holder. It is awesome, and it was custom made by the fantastic team at Battlefield Accessories. So please go and check them out if you want to get one of these. I've left a link to their website in the description. But also make sure you glue it together like I haven't at this point. And then for the water bottle, I use base lead belcher just for the top of that canteen. Okay, so we're moving on to the wash, and this is no oil and technical medium at a 1:1 ratio. Now, if you're unsure what that is no oil thinned down with its thinner at a 1:1 ratio. So if you go into a Games Workshop or Warhammer shop, just say, I would like some no oil and an appropriate thinner, and they will point you in the right direction. Just how cool is this pot holder? I know I've already promoted it, but yeah, huge thank you goes out to Battlefield Accessories for sending this and for the custom job as well. It just looks so cool, and it's going to save me tons of mistakes because I have dropped and hit so many of those bloody Citadel paint bars and lost my wash many a time. Now we're going to go back over our base colours. So now we're at the layering stage, and I'm going to try and focus on one particular area. So for us now, we're going to focus on his arm, and you can see that I'm starting to build up those bright colours and leaving the initial base colour that's been washed in those dark recesses, so the crease of the sleeve there, and I'm just painting the majority of the original colour back. So it is time consuming, but you want to get it looking something like this. Once you are happy with that, you can move on to US Olive Drab and German Camo Beige at a 2:1 ratio. So now we're starting to lower the intensity of that green and try and make it just a bit lighter as well as a bit duller. So we can see that we're just bringing that down now, and I'm starting to build up those brighter areas. So I'm using this as a second layer, so it's not my highlight color. You could use this as a highlight color too if you wanted to not mess around too much, but because there's very little to paint on this model, particular areas you want to focus on are obviously the uniform, so take a little bit more time on that. So then for the final highlight color, I'm using US Olive Drab and German Camo Beige at a 1:1 ratio. You can see now this is just about picking out the raised areas, and any area that you really feel is protruding, that you need a brighter color on it, because you can see this color is brighter. It's not so bright that it's sticking out and looking unrealistic. We're just lowering that base color down into a lighter color. So you can see I'm just picking out, there's the elbow there, so I'm just giving the elbow something. You should get something that looks like this. Doesn't look a whole lot different to what we looked at with the original base color that we put down, but you know what, I think that just looks fantastic, and it's giving us a nice uniform. So we follow the exact same steps with the webbing. So we can see here that I'm drawing on the lines and the details in the water bottle, as well as picking out his Thompson pouch. So I'm not going to show you all of the webbing for obvious reasons, because we'll be here for an eternity. If you're watching my live stream, I think I was boring everyone whilst I was painting this very, very slowly indeed. So I've sped it up just a little bit for you guys. So now we can go over with our second layer. So we're doing khaki and stone grey, and you can see that that Thompson pouch is really starting to pop. So you could again use this as your final highlight, but I really like to make it a little bit more tricky, so I will definitely do another highlight after this just to really make that webbing and helmet strap pop. So I've called it, I'm using a 1:1 ratio of the same colors now. So again, you could skip the 2:1 ratio, but if you can follow this step, you'll really reap the rewards, because they are really, really good. So I'm just starting to scratch that in. I love the scratching method, it is my go-to. Just a little bit of paint on the tip of your brush and just work it in slowly. And you can see that detail really just starts to pop. And now, because this is the final highlight, I'm literally just adding a line down each side of the Thompson pouches, and same with the top there. Now for the helmet, we go over it with US dark green. I'm using a dry brush for this. This is a proper dry brush, and this is a fantastic method for getting that helmet to look the part. So making sure that 90% of the paint is removed from your dry brush, so there's very, very little paint on there and it's almost dusty, and I'm just giving it plenty on the top and around the rim, trying to leave a little bit darker between the rim and the helmet. And then just to lighten that a little bit, I put a bit more of that German camo beige in at a 1:1 ratio with US dark green, and I just picked the very top part of the helmet and the very outer rim of the helmet just to really give it a bit of a bright colour on the top. And then for the scarf, we're going over it again with basalt grey. So there's plenty of detail in here, or like raised edges, so you really don't have to be a genius to work out what needs to be painted and what doesn't. This particular part was easy. Uniform and that I normally scratch my head at, but this was really easy to work out. And then for the final highlight, we're going to go with a 1:1 ratio with London Grey. It's really not that noticeable, so you could probably just go with a London Grey. But when you start playing with that, it starts to get a little bit unrealistic to my liking, but other people like that. So just experiment with the paints that I'm listing here, guys, and you'll have a great looking miniature regardless of if you go with all the craziness of 1:1 and 2:1 and all that. So for the boots, we go with saddle brown again. Now, because they're the boots, you don't really have to pay too much attention to them. You're going to be basing this miniature. You're probably going to be weathering the lower part of the leg and boots. So if you miss highlights or you can't be arsed with it, you know what? Good on ya. I probably wouldn't be bothering with it too if I wasn't doing a video on it. So if you did want to highlight those boots, you can go with a 1:1 ratio of that, and you're just literally adding a little line on the tip of the boot, a little line where the laces might be, and anything else that you think needs it. So for the wood, we're going back over it with flat earth. Now my wood technique is literally just to paint little scratch marks on the wood. So I'm not actually trying to paint in like the actual grip there. I'm just putting in little lines. It saves a lot of work and it actually looks really good. So the next step of this is to go at a 1:1 ratio with orange brown and just repeat the process, but not putting as much on there. You're trying to simulate wood grains. Obviously you could go with a lot lighter color, like an old wood, for example, or like a tan sort of color, but I think orange brown at this scale just makes that wood just pop just that little bit more, and that's what you want. And then finally, I just go with orange brown. Orange brown is very bright, so make sure you've got most of it off your tip and you're just scratching in just little tiny bits here and there. And you can see that grip is just starting to pop really nicely now. I'm just making sure that I'm leaving a bit of the darker base colour in the gap of that grip too. Now for the metal, we're going back over it with black grey. You can see the Thompson has plenty of detail on there, so I'm picking out all the bits of detail that I can see, especially this magazine. Painting the outer parts of the magazine as well as putting a line right down the middle as per the miniature's detail. So that again is helping us to paint the miniature. When they're as detailed as these miniatures, it's really easy to paint because you can see pretty easily what needs to be painted because it sticks out. It's not so easy on smaller figures. So then black grey and basalt grey at a 1:1 ratio is going to be my highlight. I have experimented in the past with silvers, giving it a little bit of a dry brush of silver. It's just, I think I fired guns in Vegas. That's my claim to fame. I've never been in the military or anything, but I fired guns, and the guns that I fired were very dark. They weren't like a silver or anything like that. They were very dark. So I think a black grey with a basalt grey sort of mix as the highlight actually works really nicely. Gives you the detail but without looking too cartoony. And then how can we forget the canteen? We're just going to give it a bit of base lead belcher, and I'm literally just dabbing it on the top there just to give it a bit of a highlight. Now we're not doing the face in this because the face actually didn't turn out as well as I would have liked, and I'm still not 100% with my 28mm skin tutorial that I've actually already filmed. I think I'm going to redo it, so bear with me guys, I will get one around in the next few months. But anyway, that's it. I hope you found this tutorial useful. He was a fun model to paint. If you've been keeping up with my socials, we've also got David Sterling that's going to be featured on the channel in miniature form soon. So he's also another 28mm Warlord Games figure that I'm painting. So a huge thank you goes out to Warlord Games for sending me this model and for supporting the channel like they always do, and for my Patreons and YouTube channel members. You guys already know you are legends. You guys keep this channel going and you've helped me achieve some amazing goals. So if you want to join them and join their ranks, you can join for as little as $1 and you get a few different perks. But check out the links in the description of this video as well for the Battlefield accessories. Citadel pot holder, it really is worth looking at. Anyway guys, I'm going to leave it here and I will catch you at the next one.